Well, welcome everybody. I'm Cathleena Hailley, and I'm actually very excited to be here today. I had the opportunity to participate in this event last year, and so to be a presenter this year is pretty amazing to me. It's been quite the year. I really love the Flower of Life organization. I think there's a tremendous amount of authenticity and integrity, so I know you're going to have an amazing weekend. So welcome. I'm going to share a bit about myself with you, and then we're going to do two separate activations. The first one is going to be a reset of your crystalline DNA and aligning you to the Earth's new grid. And the second is going to be to align you to the frequency of abundance. Before I go into the actual presentation, I wanted to share with you, there's a group called the Council that I work with, and they shared with me the actual frequency of the presentation itself. And what this presentation, the frequency of the presentation itself is going to be in a range that allows for the collective to, or the average individual, to be able to take a step off the ground, so to speak, onto this fourth dimensional bridge to the fifth dimension. And here's what I mean by that. Here's an example that they told me. So imagine that you have two mountains. So you have one to the left, and this would be the third dimensional reality, and this is the fifth dimensional reality on the right. And there's a bridge that goes way up high, and this would be the fourth dimension. And so imagine these mountains are flat. And so in order to get from this third dimensional reality just to the bridge of the fourth dimension over to the fifth, you have to be quite a skilled mountain climber, be putting in stakes and ropes and so on to climb up to this bridge. And that's because right now the energies and frequencies are moving so rapidly, so fast, they're coming in, that if somebody's just waking up today, they're going to have this giant gap in terms of frequency range in order for them to be able to step onto this fourth dimension to get into the fifth. All we're doing in humans anyway is matching frequencies in order to be comfortable. So why this is important is because in order to feel comfort, you need the range to be a little bit closer to you. It's also, once you match a frequency, that's where a knowing comes in. So that's where you'll be able to know what is real and what isn't. So what's being created by the frequency of this particular presentation is a step off the ground. So instead of the bridge being straight up high like this, it'll be at this steep angle, so to speak. So it'll still have to attach way up high at the fifth dimension because there's a lot of things and a lot of ranges to go through. But what will happen is it's like you'd be able to step up onto this bridge, this fourth dimension. You'd raise your frequency just a little bit. And this is just by the frequency of the presentation itself. You don't have to do anything. This is happening naturally, okay? And it'd be as though you step up and it's almost like a platform shows up. And that would be where light workers and healers and so on would come into your energy and help you adjust to that little frequency that you just came to. And then you'd be able to travel up further. And it's as though these platforms are being brought. That's happening by the frequency of this presentation itself, okay? And again, this is something that was felt important. I think most of you are past this, so it's not something that you may need. But if you're brand new, it's great. But you may have family members and people that think you're crazy, and so this may be something that you could offer them, and they don't even have to have the information. The other thing is the actual information that I'm bringing you is pretty complex subjects, but I'm going to bring it in a pretty simplistic manner. Okay? All right, so we have this giant consciousness we call source energy, and it looks something like this to me. It's a little more orange than this. It's a liquid light. It's kind of a gel form. And this consciousness knew itself conceptually, the concept of itself, but it did not know itself experientially, the experience of itself. So it expressed out of itself, and I use the term expressed very specifically because it is an expression of itself. So it expressed out of itself these perfect balls. And the first balls, this would be like the universes and the galaxies and the planets, and then you. So you are a very unique aspect of Source. And why you were created to create an experience, a unique experience based on your unique aspect for Source to have, because you're an expression of Source. So therefore, there is no outcome. You're only here for the experience. When we're born, in the womb water of the mom is what's called the crystalline DNA. This is your soul signature, your blueprint, your unique signature. And then in your physical body is your physical DNA. Before you are actually physically born, the two infuse together. And so when you come onto the planet, you're actually fully connected with your soul path, your blueprint, who you are. And then as soon as you begin to interact with the physical world, you begin to align yourself to the different belief systems and things that you learn. So imagine that this is your unique signature. And let's just say what this would look like if this were your unique signature, this heartbeat monitor. So if this were you, you would be somebody that is very straightforward, very mathematical, very specific, because the lines are real sharp, real straight. You would be building, you'd be creating something, you create it really strongly, stay focused, you bring it into form, and then you're keeping really tight to it. So you'd be an individual that's probably micromanaging, you're a bit controlling, you'd be real tight to whatever it is that you're creating. And because then it goes down underneath the line, you'd probably be pretty afraid that you would, lose it, and still pretty controlling. And then it didn't go as far down underneath, so you probably wouldn't be as bad. And then you start coming back up, so you're letting go a little bit. And then you can see where the line doesn't even completely let go. So you would never really completely let go. You'd hold on still a little bit, and then you let go, and then you'd do it again. So this would be like your unique signature. Now imagine that you're given a name, and some names do align with you, but imagine your name doesn't align with you. So it'd be like a little weight comes on top of this. And then imagine that you're told what it means to be a man or a woman or whatever in the world. And so then your signature would look something like this. That begins to change. And then imagine that you're told the ultimate thing, which is follow the straight line, do it this way, this is the only way to do it. So then your signature looks something like this. And what's a straight line on a heartbeat monitor? Death, right? So we've got a bunch of people running around with no life in their life. But this is not the only story. Everything is interconnected from source all the way to here in this giant geometric maze. And there's a couple things that differentiate some of the frequencies. One is your unique signature, which is vibrating at a slightly different rate than anybody else, and then source. The other is a grid system. A grid system is like a container, so to speak, and it contains a resonance frequency. And it would be like the difference between Earth experience versus a Mars experience. Okay, would be what this grid system creates. The resonance frequency that Source had in mind for the Earth is love, truth, beauty, goodness. Now, how these frequencies come through the grid system are what are called 0 points, or they're like little portals. And so imagine them like access points. And so what happens is your unique signature moves through one of these portals and keeps its integrity on the other side. That's the idea of what these 0 points are, or these portals, okay? The same 0 points that are on the grid system are in your head, identical, all the same ones. The original grid that we had in place is an infinite grid, which allowed for us to know completely our multidimensional self, align with everything, completely align. But some thousands of years ago, there's an energy that came here and decided to shut down some of the 0 points and dismantle some of the 0 points on the grid. So it changed the grid from an infinite to a finite grid. This made like a closed grid. Cut you off from source, did a closed container, so to speak. This is what the closed container. Now the same 0 points that are on the grid system, again, are in your head, okay? So if now these 0 points in your head don't have a match, so to speak, for them. They didn't necessarily shut down, but they don't have a match. So some of the things that happen because the 0 points, I said, are completely wrapped around you. Now we have influence by the collective because we're in this closed grid container, right? So now we have influence by the collective about what information is coming in, because these 0 points are like access information. Just imagine it that way. So the first thing that happened is emotional feelings became decided upon by the collective agreement. Love, truth, beauty, goodness, abundance, etc. In other words, the actual frequencies, love, truth, beauty, goodness, that Source had in mind, are no longer coming through. They're cut off. So now the collective makes an agreement as to what these are. Okay? And this is why we have so many different definitions as to what these different feelings are. But the other thing that happened is that, so imagine that you've got these 0 points in your head, and imagine that they're like tubes of information, direct tubes of information. And imagine that the ones that were shut down, and I do think these were the ones that were shut down, although I don't know for sure, but I do. Imagine if the ones that were shut down were the ones that told you exactly who you are, exactly where you came from, what the universe is made of, what Source is, right? So what happened is that because this information we're seeking, what we did was, it's almost like these 0 points began to sort of loop back and looped into your head, looking for the answers, because they didn't have a direct answer. And so really what you end up doing is asking the collective for these particular answers. And then the collective gives you the answers, but they also gave you very contradictory answers. So because of that, what happened is the 0 point in your physical brain looking for a match, cycling back to the brain, created a chaos frequency. So we created a chaos frequency by seeking these answers, and then the collective giving you the answers and giving you contradictory answers. Well, chaos frequency, think about this. The closed grid is not aligned with universal law. What that means is that it's not connected, okay? It's disconnected. A chaos frequency is also like that. So here's an example. Imagine that you have a spinning top, like one of those little dreidels, the little Jewish toys. And you take one that's completely mathematically balanced, and you spin it. It's going to spin and spin and spin. But if you took one that was off balance, it wobbles, okay? So you go to spin it, and it's going to spin and stop, okay? That's what a chaos frequency is like. It is off balance, and it only goes if you reset it. This is very important, because this is why we have in the collective so much conditioning. So because we created a chaos frequency, because these energies that originally came and decided to shut down the grid, they don't create. Well, we created it. So we created a chaos frequency. Now, other chaos frequencies can now exist. Fear, anxiety, cruelty, disregard for life. These are all chaos frequencies. They only exist when we reset them. Okay, this is very important. After a period of time, because the earth, even though it is outside of universal law because of this grid system, now we've got this chaos frequency going on, but it's still an intricate part of the universe. So divine intervention had to come in and help. So some time ago, again, I don't know the exact time, divine intervention came in. They tried to fix the old grid, couldn't. So they put a new grid in place. So we actually have two grids. So the new grid is completely aligned with universal law and connected. And this is what we're going to align you to when we do the reset for the crystalline DNA and align you to the new grid. Because everything's interconnected, the other piece that's going to happen when we do the reset is that the original design is that we all come through these 0 points and we're connected to Source, and then we plug in to the crystalline core of Gaia. This is what we do. We are all part of a giant energetic ecosystem. Just like the ecosystem on the planet with the trees and the birds and everything, how it's very intricate and it's all very specific, so is all of you. Okay? You're all unique, individual, and as equally important to the whole. And you're all actually part of and connected to Gaia, to the earth. We're not separate. We're not standing on it. We're connected to it. But because of this old grid paradigm, we had created all this chaos. We're not plugged in anymore. So a lot of people are just kind of walking around not knowing they're not connected in. Okay? So this is the other thing we're going to do, is we're going to plug you into the core of Gaia as well. Okay? Which then you get to look something like this. That's what we look like. There's another really incredible thing that's going to happen here, where I learned this some time ago, that this very divine energy is also very present today with you. And and is going to stop or remove all of the chaos frequency that you have accumulated up to this point in your lifetime. That's going to happen with this reset as well. Okay? Yeah, pretty amazing. So you'll just have to not reset it, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. All right? Any questions before we move into? Can you step up to the mic? Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I can answer it though. You're not following about reset. Okay. Well, what's going to happen is that, well, several things. Okay. Well, I'll talk about any questions about what this is first before. If you have a question, yeah, come on.
I just have a question on how you perceive the two grids that you're speaking of. The older grid, do you perceive that as being kind of entangled around the globe? And then the additional grid that's now accessible, do you perceive it as coming from the inner core or from the galactic center?
Well, I perceive it more as like two separate, although there really isn't two separate Earths, but it's like one is more the three-dimensional reality, and the other is the fifth-dimensional reality. Because this, in the third-dimensional reality, is this chaos frequency and all of these energies that are closed down. And so, like, I feel it, and when I'm feeling it, it feels closed off. It feels shut off. And so that's really what it feels like. And again, I think you're going to feel this. You know, when we do the reset, there's a specific thing that's going to happen, and I will talk about the actual what's going to take place in the reset itself. But what you want to pay attention to, so I'll share it with you. So when we do the reset, everybody's going to have kind of a general. So what it's like is as if you're sitting in a bowl. And it'll be like the bowl will begin to close up around your body and a liquid light comes up. And as it begins to come up, it'll close up around you. And then it's as though you stand up and your body will get wrung one way, wrung the other, and this disappear and wash into this liquid light. And then it will begin to come into form. When it begins to come into form, and I don't want you to get too heady about it, but if you start to pay attention to the way in which it's coming into form, those particular ways in which it begins is the densest aspect. That would be your attachment to the old grid, the more denser parts of the attachment to the old grid. And so it's going to be aligning. And there's a lot, I do a lot of individual work with this, but getting an idea of how your body begins to come into form kind of gives you an idea of, when I showed you like the heartbeat monitor and the difference on how that would be changing, those would be indicators on how you've been taking in belief systems. We can talk about that a little bit more afterwards. So it's something you want to look at. I will be speaking about what I'm seeing, and if you're not getting that, don't worry. You're getting unique to whatever you are, but usually there's themes, and so most likely you'll have some of the experience in which I'm talking about. So that makes sense? Okay. Any questions? No? Okay, quiet group. Solfeggio energies? Yeah, the solfeggio scale? No, I'm not talking about the scale in that way. I mean, I understand. They simultaneously exist, which is why we're doing this today. And you can do this over and over again, this reset. All that's happening in kind of a simplistic way is what we're going to do is just bring your energy to the awareness. See, because we have the new grid in place now, we all have the ability to completely know your multidimensional self. But the struggle is because we have two grids in place. And it's about belief systems. It's about letting go. These are the things that we're going to be doing. So here, all I'm going to do is very simplistically bring you into an opportunity to align with your multidimensional self, which all of you will do if you're not already. It's going to happen today. Now, adjusting to that, staying to that, there's a lot of things that can happen in relationship to that. And I will share some of the things that I know about how to do that after we do this, and if there's any questions. Okay? All right. Okay, well, if nobody has any questions, we'll move. Uh-huh.
I don't know if it's you or it's just that I am very tired.
Uh-huh.
But I'm just totally falling asleep. Do you mind if I lie down? The energy transfer when you do the activation.
You can lie down if you want. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine. However,
I'm very tired. I was trying to get my room.
that's happening because...
But I'm just...
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening because you're balancing. Yeah, that's normal. Yeah, everybody's going to crash off now. You might. It's all good. Yes, sure. You have a question?
Are you going to take us through a process? I'm a little hard of hearing, and I can't quite hear what you're saying. So I just was wondering if we have to both do that we have to be able to hear to do.
No, you won't have to hear me. It's fine. You'll be fine. Okay. If everybody wants to, just relax, close your eyes, take some deep breaths. And just keep letting go and relaxing. We're breathing in through the mouth and out through the nose. I mean, I'm sorry, the other way around. That's correct. I just thought about that. I said, whoops, wrong way. You know what you mean. And just keep letting go. This usually happens very fast. I'll try to describe it as it's happening, and when it kicks in, just keep breathing. And just keep letting go of your thoughts. Let your body just relax into the chair. And again, nice deep breath. And just try to let your minds go. All right, I'm already seeing the bowl. And if you're not getting the visual, it's okay, just let it happen. It's happening very fast. You can see you sitting in the bowl. It's filling up. And it moves up around your head. You can still breathe now the body's standing up. Now you're getting wrung one way, and the next, and now you're dissipating into the fluid. Now you're beginning to come into form. What I'm seeing is the actual DNA. I'm just seeing the structure of a DNA taking place. As though it's all through your spine. And beginning to create the torso and out the body. It's the light body that's coming in now. That's what I see. Take a deep breath. The divine energy is here dissolving out all of the chaos. It's being moved out of your life. It's being pulled out of this bubble. And just having your light body get brighter and brighter. Keep allowing that. It's coming out your back, out the lower back. It's really coming off of everybody's back. It's the illusion of having a back or needing to feel like you had to hold yourself up. Just keep letting that go. I'm seeing everybody's face coming into form. And your head, the back of the head. But the face is being beamed with this very bright white light. And this white light is just coming through the face and the front of the body, and out the back is all of that chaos and density is just removing. And everybody's becoming very white, very bright white. Take a big breath, allow that to happen. I'm beginning to see a lot more physical form starting to come in. So keep allowing that. Seeing all the outlines of the bodies and the skin structure starting to come in. But it's absent of a lot of density. Just keep breathing, nice big breath. Now I'm seeing all of your light bodies coming in very strong, like all connecting together. It's like a big beam of light, and all of your signatures are now really aligning completely to source, coming into this perfect alignment and beginning to move into the crystalline core of Gaia. Take a deep breath. Allow that to happen. Just let go. Just let go. And allow for the opening of all the lower chakras to allow you to move easily, comfortably into the core. Feel Mother Earth. Feel the welcoming and the love and the connectedness that you're bringing and that she's giving you. Breathe, keep breathing. Beautiful. That's great. Just keep breathing. There's a couple more people that are still almost there. You all look like this giant ball of energy. There's a few of you that I'm going to suggest just let go of any density, any pain, any places in your physical body that you felt you can't get rid of or have to hold on to. Just let it go right now. Let it go. That's great. We're just letting go of all those stories. Great. That's it. Everybody just begin to rest into your seat. Feel yourself very comfortably sitting in your seat in this new light body. That's it. Great. And when you're ready, you can just open your eyes. Well, it's interesting because this whole story that I shared with you has a lot to do with my life. When I came into the world, I came in on. There was no off. I was a very curious child. My mother said that when we would do things as a family, not that we did a lot of things, the other kids would participate in whatever it was, but I was always curious how it worked, how everything worked. And she told me that one time she said to me, she said, "You have your shoes on the wrong feet." And I looked at her and I looked at my feet and I said, "But these are the only feet I have." I was like, so that was kind of my story. And I had this thing that would happen when I was around adults, of course my parents, where I would hear, they'd say something out of their mouth, and I would hear their thoughts, and it was different from what they said. And then I would feel their emotions, and it was even different from that. And so it was very confusing as to what was real. And so I had a really tough time trying to figure out what was real. And so I think I just sort of shut down my emotions and went very practical. My father, I think he was very connected. I think he knew. And they took us in and out of a lot of different churches as a child, which made things even more confusing for me. And even my parents, my mother was raised Methodist, my father Catholic, so they even got married in 2 different churches. Yep. And then at about the age of 6, I was introduced to transcendental meditation. So that's tell me, that's the last thing a 6-year-old wants to do is come in and meditate. But I did. And it was actually quite euphoric. I realized this later, that when I would go into meditation, there was 2 people there, a man and a woman, and we would sit kind of in this triangle, and I realized it was Jesus and Mary Magdalene. I didn't know that till later. And once I would go, I would be with them, and it felt very comfortable and so on, and then I would go deeper. And when I went deeper, which again I realized later, is when I would go to the Akashic Records, and I met the Council and Andromedans and Arcturians and Metatron and Michael and so on. And getting tons of information, all this kind of stuff was going on. So it was very great and euphoric, but then when I came to the real world, it was such a contrast that, again, I just kind of shut down. So I didn't know, how to handle the emotions. So I ended up just going very mathematical. So as my life continued, I ended up later in life, going into business and college and getting a degree in business, majoring in finance and so on. And somewhere along the way, I got introduced to massage. And I say I ended up going to massage because I had to surrender my misery, because I was really unhappy in the business sector. And in massage school, this thing that had happened to me as a child about, hearing somebody say something out of their mouth and something different, hearing their thoughts and then their emotions, well, that elevated, in massage, because now I'm touching people. So all kinds of things began to happen during that time, and just lots of different energy things were happening and lots of stuff. And so that over time I began to understand that I do automatic writing and that I'm very connected to a lot of the galactics. And so I was getting all information. And I ended up channeling this healing center. And it was a very specific design, and it's using sacred geometry, and it's got, very specific people and so on in it. And so I felt like this was my mission, and I'm going to create this healing center. So I moved from the physical location where I was living, and I set out to do this. And I had lots of different people coming forward, and I was introduced to a lot of people and different energies and different things. And I kept stepping into it, and then it would close down. And I'd step into it, and it would close down. And I'm like, what's happening here? And it wasn't just closing down, but people were closing down on me as well. And I didn't understand that, because I felt like this was my mission. So I remember this particular day, I kind of yelled out, I'm like, look, if I'm supposed to do this, you better give me a sign or tell me something that's going to, let me know that if I step in, I'm going to get guided right to the right place. So about a week or so later, I had a practice in massage, and I was leaving this practice this particular night, and it was going to really storm. It was like really blackout. And I remember driving, and so I'm driving down the road, and I turn down this one road, and it's a really busy road, and I drive, and I see this little puppy, and it's darting out into the road. So I drive by and I see it in my rear view and I'm like, oh my God, this puppy, right? I got to go get this puppy. So I turn around and I get this puppy, and remember, it's going to storm. It's like getting ready to pour. So I'm sitting in my car, and you have to appreciate this area I was in had like thousands of apartments on either side of this very busy road, and there's nobody there. So I'm sitting there with this puppy, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So it's okay, I'm going to take it home with me, and I lived across town. So I started to drive, and something said, no, go back. It's okay, so I go back. And I'm sitting there again in my car, nobody around. Now it's really going to storm, right? And I have no idea where this puppy belongs. So I thought, well, I could like put it out on the ground. I'm like, no, I can't do that. Plus it's going to storm. So I just started to drive. So I just kind of drove this way, and then I just sort of turned this way, and I turned this way, and I just parked. And I could see when I got out of my car, there was a person a little bit further away, and then there was a guy not too far from me. So I ended up walking up to this guy, and I said, excuse me, is this your puppy? He's like, no. And I said, well, do you think that you could take this puppy? Because I think it lives somewhere around here, and, it would be best to be here. He's like, no, I can't take this puppy because my wife won't let me, blah, blah, blah. He goes, but I think those people over there, maybe they have a dog, maybe you can talk to them. I said, okay. So I ended up knocking on the door next to the door that he pointed to. So I knock on the door, and the person opened up the door, and they say, my puppy. True story. So here, out of thousands of choices, arbitrarily turning, the only door I knocked on was the one that this dog belonged to. So I was like, ding, 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 okay, gotcha. I was like, wow, okay, that's cool. So I said, okay, I'm going to trust this. And I kind of stayed with it, and I was doing some writing and different things and going in more into energy. And I had a friend of mine that asked me to come over to her house, and she said because she had this garden in her backyard where the Pleiadians and the Arcturians and so on show up. And I thought, that's cool. And this is somebody who's been channeling for a long time. She's got like cards, tarot kind of cards that she makes with the different people, and she's put books, all this kind of stuff. I said, okay, this is cool, I'll go over there. So I went to her house, and I went to the garden, and the Arcturians and the Andromedans and so on, Pleiadians, showed up. I don't see them, but I could feel them because I've had enough contact with them. I knew I could feel the difference. Oh, that was cool. And then she handed me a book, and this particular healer I felt an affiliation for. So I thought, okay, cool. So I ended up looking him up, and it turns out he had a class in Sedona, and it was just like a month or so later. So I ended up signing up for this class and went out to Sedona, and it was a class in starting your light body. And this was like magical when I went out there. So I go out there, and one of the first things that took place was there was probably about, 100 people there. And I felt like I knew each one of them very intimately. And he said that, yeah, all of us had chosen to come to this particular time and this time, like eons ago and lifetimes ago together. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. But there was a couple things that were pretty amazing that took place that weekend. The most profound for me was there was a healing that was channeled by Archangel Michael. And the idea of this healing was to remove entities from you, if you had entities. And they said it wasn't bad, these entities. They were just here, and they got stuck in you, basically, and they wanted to help them move out. So they created, I think it was a star tetrahedron or something in the ceiling, and the idea was that they'll move out of your body, and they'd help them go to where they belonged, because they couldn't get there. And what the healing was that you would have one person let you lay on the floor, and you had 5 people around. And the first part of it was Om. So you'd Om for 5 minutes, and then you'd sing Hallelujah. Okay? Well, when it became my turn, and I'm laying on the ground, and they start Om, I was like, okay, and I could feel I was kind of going somewhere, and I felt myself kind of going somewhere. And then all of a sudden I was like, ooh, wait, something's here. Oh, this is weird. I was kind of scared. And I felt one of the instructors come over and they put their hand on my abdominal area, and they told us that if there was an entity, that's what they would do. They'd put it on the abdominal and come out. I was like, ooh, okay, something's coming out of me. This is weird. Okay, so anyway, I felt like this pull sensation, and then it was like I dropped, and I just kind of crashed the floor. And then they started singing Hallelujah, and I heard this very high-pitched music, and then I was crying, and I saw it was like Michael and Metatron and Jesus, Mary Magdalene, they're all holding this baby, and I'm crying, and then I realized that I was the baby, and that they were welcoming me into the world. And I thought, wow, okay. So I said, this was my reset of my crystalline DNA. And I was profoundly changed. And it was incredibly different. But that was not the end of my story. So after that, I was into the energy and things were happening. And again, I ended up moving again from my physical location. And then in this time, I say it's like I experienced the dark night of the soul. And I don't know if you're familiar with the stages of the caterpillar to the butterfly. But in the chrysalis stage, the caterpillar is literally liquid. So if you imagine that you're conscious at this time, and you are encased in this enclosure, and you have this awareness that you were once this land creature, and you could run around on the earth, but you're liquid, okay? And you also have this new awareness that's coming in that's like, you know, you're going to fly, so you feel something different, but yet you're liquid. And so I felt that, and at first it was extremely scary, and I was just losing it. Until I realized, you know, if you're encased in here and you are liquid, what are you going to do? You surrender, you let go. So I let go. And it was the most magical thing. It was literally at that moment that I completely shifted to the new grid and into this fifth dimensional, and all my multidimensional self came in, and my whole life made sense. And that's the me I am here today. And it was that magical. That amazing. So the moral of the story is you got to let go. But that's very truthful, though. I mean, that's about the chaos frequency. It's about letting go. And we'll talk more about that. So I shared with you before about the closed grid. The actual frequency of abundance, there is an actual frequency. And the actual frequency of abundance is the physical sun. It's not the rays of the sun, the heat of the sun, it's the actual physical sun. Which, of course, probably no coincidence. They don't want you out in the sun. But it's the actual, that's the actual frequency of abundance. And so we're going to bring that in for some of you for the first time, because if you've been aligning to the old grid and you think you know what abundance feels like, you have no idea what it feels like. So this is just the beginning. There's lots of frequencies that we're going to bring in. Today I'm just going to bring that one in, but there's others that we can bring in. So one of the things that's important about understanding about these frequencies is also to understand the connectedness with everyone. So this illusion here of the separateness that we have of I'm in a different place or I'm da-da-da, you know, is only decreases, we'll say, the effectiveness or the frequency or whatever of whatever that you're seeking. So if, in other words, if you kind of want more abundance, so to speak, you send it to everybody else. Right? That's kind of the idea that we're taught. I'm just trying to make it a little bit clearer, hopefully. Right, so how's everybody feel about, let's move into that particular activation. Good? Yeah? No questions? No? Everybody? Yes?
What about subconscious programming? I know that we're resetting the DNA, but some people might have things that are deeply ingrained in the subconscious, so much so that it's hard, even in meditation or with another healer, to come and find out where what an anxiety is coming from, manifest in the body. Well, I have no conscious narrative to explain this anxiety. So how is there a way to tweak this, or does this automatically address something like this?
Well, that gets a little bit different subject, but I'll share a little bit about that because this is something that I actually work with a little bit too. But in your chronological development, when you're talking about the subconscious programming, we take in belief systems that create like a set point. And a set point's like a foundation of that belief system. And time is not linear, it's circular. So these things are going on today as much as they were in the past. So you can literally change your past by addressing that set point and changing it. And this is some of the work that I do independently. But this does happen when you have an awareness. When I was saying to you before about when you're going through this activation, you can do this more than once. You can continue to do this. And you're starting to pay attention to what's happening in your body. Well, now I would take you through a process that actually would wake this up. And we begin to look at what age you took this in. And the idea is, say at the age of 10, you take in a belief system that in order to get love, I have to shut off. So if you took in that belief system at 10 years old, then that 10-year-old goes into their head with that belief system, and that 10-year-old in his or her head is now in your head reaching out for a match all the time. So no matter what you did in your life as an adult, anything that came back to, love, it would travel back to that same set point until you changed it. But you can change that. Some of your own awareness would come forward as you begin to, if you're doing the reset in this way, and you're noticing as you're doing the reset, say, I feel like my skin shows up first or whatever. So then you begin to ask yourself, okay, so what is it about my skin? What is it? And you will begin to get a story, yourself as to where those belief systems are. I mean, it does begin to open.
Influences as clues to get to the subconscious programming. You can reset the programming. For instance, if you get heart palpitations, okay, what are the heart palpitations all about? I know they're anxiety, but where is the belief so that I can get in there and
well, you'd have to take your head and beginning to ask yourself, what's the story? It's not about the palpitations, it's the story behind it.
Exactly.
And you begin to look at that story. Like I said, it has a pattern, all patterns. It all has a pattern. So you begin to look at the story. It does unfold, and you can quite literally bring forward in energy these aspects of yourself are as alive today as they were, and you can literally retrieve them from energy, bring them into your heart to make magic in your life and carry them in. And the idea is allowing them to grow up naturally instead of being stuck in time. Okay? Because most people are teens running around, they don't grow past that because of these belief systems that they're stuck in. Sure. Any other questions? No? Okay, well, let's go into this particular alignment then. I'm going to align you to the frequency of abundance. Okay, everybody just close your eyes, relax, take some deep breaths. Keep letting go. Gaia is going to present this giant crystal. And begin to see it coming into the center of the room. And has a point at the top and points all the way down to the bottom. And this is going to be used to activate this frequency. Taking a deep breath. And the frequency is beginning to come into this giant crystal. And moving down into it. And coming out almost like little bolts of lightning out of this giant crystal to each one of you. Just keep taking deep breaths. And what's forming around you is an identical crystal as to this very large one. And the energy is coming from the sun into the crystal, through this giant crystal into at the solar plexus area of your body as it's forming a crystal around you. Just keep breathing. The point at the top and a point at the bottom. This crystal is being formed around you so that you can contain this particular frequency on the earth right now, and it's going to allow you to be able to contain other frequencies later. Just keep allowing that to come in. It's going to be infusing into every cell of your being, this abundance, full abundance. And the crystal that Gaia is presenting is spinning, beginning to spin. In a counterclockwise motion. Connecting all of you, connecting above. Let that move into every cell of your physical body, allowing pure abundance into every cell of your physical body, to every aspect of your life, into every belief system that you don't think that you deserve or that you could have, or that your physical body could be healed. Keep breathing that in, allowing for that full abundance to come in to every cell of your physical being now. This is your birthright. That's it. Let every cell of your being feel the beautiful feeling of abundance. Begin to allow that feeling to connect into the core of the earth, as well as to all of you. Feel the oneness in the room of the amazing abundance. The birthright of every soul upon the planet. Just keep breathing, take a deep breath. That's it. There's a few of you, let your hearts open. We're going to let go of any belief systems that you don't deserve or you couldn't have or it's not meant for you. Just take some breaths. We're going to allow this to move into our lineage as well, into our family. We're going to send this into them as well. We're expanding this. Just keep breathing. That's great. We're going to expand this out. We're going to keep expanding this. Beautiful abundance. We're going to expand this energy to every individual in this entire building, in the entire area. We're going to keep expanding it. Still a couple of you to open your hearts a little bit more, let go of any belief system that I don't deserve. That this couldn't be real. Just keep breathing, let that happen there. Let that expand. And we're going to spin this completely into your core. We're spinning this completely straight down your spine, creating a liquid light of this amazing abundance in your entire spine and your entire nervous system. Feeding this to every cell of your physical body. I want you to imagine opening your arms, opening your hands, and receiving. Just receive. As you receive right now, you are giving as well. We're going to thank Gaia for this amazing gift of this beautiful crystal. And let that frequency of this beautiful abundance resonate in every cell of your physical body. Begin to feel yourself resting into your chair very comfortably, very beautifully. This amazing new comfortable light body with all of this incredible abundance. Just going to pump it up for a second. Everybody might get a little hot. Really going to beam it hard. It's great. Wonderful. Everybody take a nice big breath and take that in, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Any questions?
You take comments?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Comment away.
All right. Should I go up to the mic?
Yep, up to the mic or wherever you want. Sure.
All right.
If it's on, you might have to click it on. I don't know if they had it on.
All right. I wanted everyone to hear me. So, on their first activation, I actually felt the chill go down my spine. I felt chilled right down my spine. I felt at the end, I felt tears of joy for actually releasing some of the pain that I didn't even realize that I still had. You know,
It's
I
great.
am a work in progress.
Yay!
But the second one, I actually felt the crystals surround me. I felt it circling around me. I actually felt really, really cold, you know, and I mean, I almost got claustrophobic. I'm going, oh, you know, I have an issue with closeness, but I love crystals. You know, and they
So great.
but to have one and being trapped inside one, I was going back and forth with it.
That's great.
But then I relaxed, and then when I felt it go into my spine, you know, and I mean, I was really cold until after, when you turned that heat up, you warmed me right up.
That's so great. That's
But I
great.
really
Thank you.
didn't feel it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Anybody else? Share or questions? Sure. Do you want to come up to the mic? That's okay. Nobody's looking at your feet. Hi.
I think you had mentioned this earlier. I'm not positive because, dizziness. But now that we're set into the new grid, is it possible to end up back in the old grid?
Okay. Yes.
And, the same thing with the abundance. Now that we're, same kind of thing.
Sure. Well, a couple things about staying aligned to the new grid. One is that I have as suggestions. Well, one is I've channeled a handheld instrument that I've patented to keep its integrity from the Arcturian collective. It's called a frequency adjuster. I actually have some here that if you're interested, and I'll show them to you, but it actually creates a 0 point, so it actually does keep you aligned to the new grid. It allows for your frequency to stay in its integrity even in the old paradigm. But with that, also, you still need to stop resetting the chaos frequency. The chaos frequency only exists in the third dimension. In fifth dimension doesn't exist. That doesn't exist there, because the difference is this third dimensional reality that we're in, the closed grid, is not inside universal law. It's outside of universal law, okay, meaning that it's closed, right? Fifth dimension is in universal law. So outside universal law won't exist inside universal law. So what happens is you shift over to fifth dimension, and then you start getting freaked out or whatever, it's going to throw you right back to third. That's going to keep happening. And this is our little dance that we're doing because we have two grids. Like I said, the frequency adjuster that I have, it came to me because it allowed me to be able to stay grounded enough to keep moving towards the fifth dimension. So it is a tool that's available if you're interested. But again, the main thing is going to be stop resetting. That's why if you see it, there's so much conditioning. This is what's happening on the planet right now, is all this conditioning of this fear and all this. It's, you heard the old adage, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. It doesn't exist. It literally doesn't exist because it's not in universal law. And I know that we say, but it's not that simple. Well, it's not that simple, but I just give you a little tip. is if you start to imagine your head is your house. And so just like you wouldn't let anybody come in your home and kick your dog or whatever, well, you got to pay attention to what's in your head. Okay, and start paying attention to what is my dominant thought. And not just what is my dominant thought, but what is my feeling. Okay, the feeling is the most important aspect of that. And that gets to that will tell you what your story. What is my dominant feeling? It's really a thought that'll create the feeling. Okay? Anybody else? Yes. Hi.
Correctly, but where do you see this going? What's the end game for all of it? Is everybody going to make the shift? Are some people going to make the shift to the fifth, and then some people be left behind? What is your perspective on that?
Well, I think people are going to make a decision about that. I think that there may be individuals that are so aligned with the density that they don't want to wake up, so they're just not. I think that what we're all doing right now, I feel like that the biggest shift that's happening right now, and this is the way I work, is about having a 3D life. Because I think that the wake up, we went from this very dense 3D life illusion, of just we're black and white and here we are and we got nothing and blah, 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 right, in your life, to this huge wake up that's been happening. And oh my gosh, we are multidimensional beings and there's all these galactics to this giant thing over here. And I think what we're coming to is like how to integrate that and have a life as well, and I think that's the name of the game when you talk about right now. It's about having a 3D life, and be able to recognize that I am a multidimensional being. And when I let go of the chaos, then it feels good. And then you recognize all of you wonderful people that we're all connected together and we get this beautiful family instead of this illusionary stuff, right, of separation. I think so. To me, that's where we are right now. This is this place. This is what I feel anyway. Is creating that bridge. Helping individuals. That's why this whole talk is in this particular frequency. It's at one that isn't as readily available right now to be able to take that little step to feel comfortable. Because the thing is, we don't really learn from somebody speaking to us. It's how we feel. That's how we learn, is you feel it. Because you can tell, somebody can tell you anything, but if you don't feel it, when you feel it, right, that's how you can have 10 people tell you something, and the one person that you feel it, they connect. So that's the name of the game to me. Sure.
I just want to say that I often feel like I'm living in the fifth dimension as like a new Earth, but have visiting rights to the third dimension. Sometimes I stay too long, but it's like if I'm going back to visit my family, I often go back to the third dimension, stay there a couple days.
Well, if you enjoy it.
It's not a matter of enjoying it, but it is a matter of, it's like a whole contract to do with my family to a certain degree, so that's what I do, but it's not enjoyable. It's just more like I can really distinguish between whether I'm on their level or my level and flip back and forth. And a lot of them are coming over to my level.
I think the more that we stay in our authenticity, and that's really the name of the game. That's what we started off as explaining, that you are a unique aspect of Source. And you have a very unique signature that's you. And when you discover what that is and you align with that, then that's your life. And I can tell you from my own experience, I'm no different than anybody else. I continually have to let go. And for me, when I don't reset chaos, I feel good. And it doesn't matter what shows up, but what's really cool is things show up in your world that actually give you this amazing life. So to me, that's the idea of having a 3D life without being in the 3D paradigm. Yes.
so much for that. Could you give us an example of what we might experience after this activation, or these two activations, of what kind of subtle things we might experience?
Sure. Well, you could have everything from, a galactic standing in front of you and go, hey, I mean, it can be that, or you usually it depends on where you are, in your development. I'd say people which I felt a lot of individuals here who had body stuff, some people have some they thought were pretty severe conditions in their body that would not surprise me if it's gone, and I think will be gone. So I think some of that will probably be some of the experience that happens. It really, again, it depends on the density of where you start. But I would encourage you to keep letting go. That's the main thing. The more that you can not bring back the old or look for it or whatever, allow for your energy to expand. Ask yourself questions about yourself. Then I think you're going to get much more expansion. Okay. Hopefully that answered that. Yeah.
So I hope I can put this into words that you'll understand, because I feel like it might be the only person that feels this way, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it's always bothered me. So my question is, since I was little, I feel like my soul resonance is one resonance, and then I feel like my human density is another lower vibration, and it's always been an incongruency where, like, I think that my soul will feel like it wants to go higher, but I almost have this feeling like if I did, I couldn't be in human form and do that. So does this, hopefully, some people are going like this, but so then the question is, does the attunement, is there a way to get those two in alignment?
Mm-hmm.
So that, the soul density and the human density are like resonate at the same point.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of classic of this old paradigm, new paradigm. It's like you probably have had many lifetimes here on this earth plane. And so a lot of resonance to this old paradigm. So there's a lot of story in that's telling you that there's this differentiation. And then ultimately, which I feel, is there is a fear that I can't have both. Well, fear is the chaos frequency, which is the alignment to the old paradigm and the old grid. So, and I felt that a lot. I felt huge separation, because when I came into the world, like I said, I had all this awareness, and then my life created densities, and it was a constant for that. But it really is just a matter of letting go of these belief systems on the earth. We've really, for generations of time, been taught wrong, and that's the issue. That we know the truth. Everyone knows the truth. But there's layers upon layers, and that's what I feel with you, is that there's layers upon layers, just like, if you had a fossil that was way down in the ground and, pull it out and all the layers of time that's been put on. That's what it feels like, when you feel that. It's just so many layers of belief systems and things to try to break through. Especially if you're analytical. You're a very analytical mind, which I am as well, so it hasn't been easy.
How do you control energy of fear?
Well, you don't control energy of fear. You recognize it doesn't exist. Well, you can shift it. I'll give you an example that I had, which, so I was in my apartment, from what my bedroom is here, like if I'm laying here in bed, and I can look out and see my desk. And when I would wake up in the morning, and I had these frequency adjusters that I had just gotten, and I had boxes of them sitting there. And so I'd wake up and I would see them, and I would go into, oh my God, I'm not selling them, I don't know what I'm doing, and this fear and all this energy would come up. And so I close my eyes and I would sit in my bed and I'd recognize, well, first of all, I'm here in my bed, so I'm going to relax. And then I would say to myself, well, hold on, wait, okay, so yes, the reality is they're there. I say, but what is really the story? So instead of having a story going, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing, I said, well, hey, those are very specific for very specific people and they just haven't figured it out yet. So that's why they're there. All right, I'm good with that. So as soon as I did that, so I shifted my energy, and then what actually happened, this literally happened, is then suddenly I had the awareness of this class I had taken, and then I got out the notebook, and in the notebook I had some emails and found an email address for an individual. I sent the information about this individual, who happens to be in Australia. She ended up buying 10 frequency adjusters and became a distributor. And it all happened like that because I just changed the energy, see what I mean? And that's the idea. So it's what story? Am I going to go, oh my God, or am I going to go, well, no, there's a reason. It's practice. Practice.
I work in an environment where I can see a lot of energies which are really putting people down.
Mm-hmm. Still have to practice. She just said that she works in an environment where there's a lot of energies that put people down. She was just sharing. Yes? My energy adjuster? Yeah, sure. Well, I'll show you. If anybody's interested after this in 3 minutes, I can go get them and I'll do a little demo. And if anybody wants to purchase one, they'll have them here. Sure. But I'll tell you a little bit about it right now. It's a handheld instrument. It actually mimics the healing center. The healing center was the bigger version, and this became a handheld version. So it's kind of identical. It's very specific in design. It's made of a very special wood. The wood's called babunga, which is the second highest frequency wood on the planet. It's from Africa. Babunga. It's from Africa. The wood. Oh, I don't know exactly where in Africa. No, it's just from Africa is all I know. Anyway, and it's very specifically designed, so it's exactly 8 inches long. It has 1 inch on a point at the end, which has 12 points, and 12 points on either end, and it has 10 sides around it, and it has special crystals that are inside that align you to the connection of source and the earth, and then the earth and you, and then it also aligns all your chakra systems. So when you attune to it, and the attunement process is very simple, I'll just tell you how to do it, it actually aligns all your body systems and your chakra systems and your pure connection to source and the earth through this 0 point. It has 10 sides around it. We have 11 body systems. Each one of the sides represents a body system. It's also a diagnostic tool, and I can show you how to use it. Oh, she has one back there. Look, Yeah. Well, I can show it here, sure. It has an infinity on it, which signifies to the right side of the body. This is the masculine or the God connection. This is the feminine or the earth connection. And the attunement is going to be, which I'll show you a little bit closer up, as you put your thumbs on either end. This actually hits the pituitary gland on your thumbs. And the infinity, when you have the infinity upright, the infinity is on a flat space, so the lines are on either side of it. So you'd put 2 fingers on the line that's closest to your body, and I have to show you closer up because you're not going to be able to see it, but you'll see it out here. 2 fingers, and you hold 9 seconds. 9 is completion, and you om 9 seconds. This is the cardiovascular system. Then you roll it away from you, and the next is digestive, endocrine, so on. It goes in alphabetical order. And you go all the way around, so the first and last line are the same, so you complete the circle. And then that's it, you're done. You can hear the crystals are inside. It's actually made in half, and everything about this 100% natural. It's even glue. The glue is pine sap. So it's actually glued together. Yeah, huh? You probably could. I don't think it would come apart. But anyway, once it's attuned, it will keep you aligned no matter where you are in the world. And you only have to do it one time, as long as you don't reset it in the box as a box. Now you can, though, as a diagnostic tool, if you do it regularly, what's going to happen is when you do the Om should sound Om. If it goes kind of weird, then you stay on it 3 times, and it'll actually realign whatever's trying to adjust that body system before it ever gets into the body. It also, if you sleep with it, it'll exponentially clean your field. What's happening is your energy's coming into alignment with it. And as it's doing it, it's literally taking out of your energy body any particles that you've collected over time. But those should all be out of you right now. So you align with it, you're good. Yeah, it's individual. Yeah, each person. Yeah, this creates a 0 point. Just like the 0 points that are on the grid, this creates a 0 point, so it allows for your frequency to come through. Okay? Sure. I'm sorry? I am going to actually eventually, I have one designed for animals specifically. But yes, you can. But the main thing with animals, now we have an animal person that's going to be talking today, but is like I have a cat that he's 18 and he was diagnosed with diabetes, and then they said he had some renal issues. So I spoke to him and I said, listen, you're a multidimensional being. You do not have to do this. You do not have to pick this up from humans. And literally within like a week, I was giving him, I think, 3.5 units of insulin, and now he's at 1. And his system's changing. So you can, in that way, like you can kind of pull your energy away from the animal. Does that make sense? Okay, anybody else? I think we're out of time.
Just one thing. Your energy's incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Me out the moment you started.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you.